Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing another dividend analysis, and this time we're going to be looking at KNOP, or KNOP, which is Not Offshore Partners LP. I wanted to do this company because I've seen a few people talking about it, and I've seen a lot of misconceptions that I kind of wanted to clear up so that people knew what they were dealing with. First, what is KNOP? KNOP is essentially a shuttle tanker service. What they do is they lease out shuttle tankers to carry crude oil from where it's extracted offshore to an onshore refining facility. So they might lend out their vessels to a company like, for example, BP or Exxon or Chevron. They would lease the vessel to move the oil from their extraction to a refining site. You can think of KNOP as essentially a pipeline, but instead of over land, they're a pipeline of shuttle tankers over water. Hopefully that makes sense. Another thing about KNOP is, though they are an LP, a limited partnership in the United States for tax purposes, they have elected to be taxed as a C corporation. So that means that they can have qualified dividends. If you hold the stock for long enough, the units in this case, for long enough, you will get those tax benefits. So be sure to remember that compared to other LPs. Now, if we take a look at the yield here, we can see that it's sitting just below 11%, a very healthy yield in general, even for something that's in the energy business. Now, a lot of people, when they see these double-digit yields, they immediately think, this is a dividend trap. Why are they paying such a high dividend? They're trying to lure me in. For KNOP, this is not the case. The way that the company is structured, how it works, its industry, this is actually a very normal yield. This is not a dividend trap. We'll go over that more later. Now, if we go back and look at their dividend history, they were actually founded in 2013, and we have their dividend history back to then. We're looking at just under 32 cents, which increased to 52 cents 2 years later and has stayed the same since. Now, this might be alarming for some people that the dividend has not increased in such a long period of time, but again, for this particular company, the way they're organized, this is how they choose to have their dividend operate. When I see this, I'm actually less than concerned. Would I like to have seen it maybe go from 52 to say 54 or 55 cents over this time? Sure, but the company is trying to maintain their dividend, so this is fine with me. We have no cuts, we have no suspensions. This is all right. Next, let's go and look at their cash flow. And as we can see here in the free cash flow line, we have gone from 107 million 5 years ago to 168 million in 2020, a very nice increase of about 50%, and not paid out 68 million in dividends last year. If we divide that by 169, just to round off, we're looking at right at about a 40% payout ratio. Very nice for our free cash flow payout ratio, well under our 50% ideal range. They have the money to pay this off, to pay this dividend off. So there's no worry about cuts there unless there's a huge fall. Now, we're going to look at the income statement, but I kind of want to preface this with income doesn't really matter for this kind of business. There are so many tax loopholes and ways they get around reporting income that these numbers here don't really mean anything. They did 64 in income last year, but only did 68 million in dividends, so we're looking at over 100% payout ratio. But the way that they operate, how much they write off, things like that, this number doesn't really matter. I ignore income for most energy companies in general, especially energy transportation like this. So while it would technically be a no because they're over 100% in their payout ratio here, I'm choosing to ignore this. Now, how does KNOP actually make their money? So they're leasing out shuttle tankers to other companies, usually larger companies like your Exxons, your BPs, in order to essentially create a lease partnership. They're saying, you can use our tanker to move your oil over this amount of time for this amount of money. That's how they're making their money. Unlike other companies, they have certain things that you want to look at to make sure that they're still able to do that. One of the most important things is utilization rate. That's how much of their actual tanker space, their tanker use, is being used to transport oil. For KNOP, they're consistently over 98%, which is a bare minimum. You would like to see them over 99% utilization rate, but they are able to stay over 98%. That means that 98% of their space in their shuttle tankers is being used consistently to move oil. That is a positive for them. Another thing to look at a company like this is the management. Because you're looking at yield here, you want to see how does the management feel about that yield. I have read through their quarterly reports, and I can say that I'm very pleased with KNOP's management. For such a small cap company, they are valued at well under $1 billion. Their management team seems to be very, very good. In their quarterly reports, when asked about their dividend, they have said our most important thing about the dividend is maintaining the current dividend. We might think about growing it in the future, but what we are trying to do with the business is to maintain the dividend for our unit holders. We want to structure our business's success around doing that. As an income investor, as a dividend investor, that is something I want to hear from every management team, making sure that the dividend stays supported. That's something really good to hear. Another thing about KNOP is that as an oil transporter as opposed to a oil producer, it is a much safer play. That isn't to say that it's a safe play, but it's going to be a safer play dividend-wise than something like your Exxons, your BPs, or your Chevrons. Their movements are going to be much more closely tied to the price of oil, whereas KNOP's will not. There's always going to be oil needed to be moved between places, regardless of the price, so their share price is going to be a little bit more stable. It's not going to be stable compared to, say, something in a different sector, but as opposed to the straight oil producers, this is going to be a little bit more safer for you. So who is KNOP for? Who is this investment for? Who should be buying these units? Who wants to invest in this? As an income and dividend investor, this is a pure income play. You're going to see very little capital appreciation from KNOP. If we go back and look at them over time, we can see here that they're below where they opened at $22, and we can see that they have consolidated over time right around $20 to $22, with their only real big drops being in 2015 and last year during the pandemic. Otherwise, they sit right around $20, which is where they're sitting right now. If you're looking for a lot of capital appreciation, this probably isn't for you. But if you are an income investor and you're looking for a nice double-digit yield, 10%, 11%, 12%, depending on the price, and if you get a little high towards that $22, $23, still looking at a 9% yield, this is for you. Otherwise, I'd tend to avoid something like this. This is a dividend play, a pure income play. If you're really looking for capital appreciation, even in an energy sector, there's going to be better plays for you. But if you're just looking for income, this has a place in your portfolio at a single-digit percentage. I hope this helps, and thanks for watching.